executive of the Japanese video games company Nintendo, Satoru Iwata, has died. He was 55 and had been treated for cancer.
Hello everybody, XP Gamer here, and today marks 2 years since the death of Satoru Iwata, president of Nintendo. And I don't really know what to say. I have a few things. This is mainly off the top of my mind, which, you know, I don't really do too well when I'm speaking off the top of my mind. That's something I need to work on. But, I really don't know what to say. I have a few things planned out, though. Just a few points, topics about Satoru Iwata, about what he meant for me, and about what he meant for Nintendo. So, I'd just like to speak those out, say what he meant to me, what he did for Nintendo, all that. Now, a lot of people, you may ask about what they were doing when they found out Satoru Iwata had passed. A lot of people have very extravagant stories. Some people say they were playing Splatoon, got out of a turf war, ended up seeing a bunch of posts about it. Some people said that was the day one of their family members died. Some people say, like that was their birthday or something, or just a very good day, and knowing that ruined their day. And if you ask me, honestly, you wouldn't get a very extravagant story. You wouldn't get a story at all. Because, I was just kind of bored. And I went on Instagram and all of a sudden I saw a bunch of posts about it. And this was when I was 11, so at the time, I felt bad, obviously, because I knew I knew he worked with Nintendo, but at the time, I wasn't who I was today. Not nearly. At the time, I didn't even know who he was. I just knew he was associated with Nintendo, and that's really the only reason I felt bad. But since that day, I've changed a lot. Just because my story about finding out how he passed isn't extravagant, doesn't mean that day wasn't. When I found out he passed, like I said, the only reason I felt bad was because I knew he was with Nintendo, but I didn't know nearly how important he was to Nintendo. Because at the time, I honestly didn't even know who he was. At the time, I didn't know who Eiji Aonuma was, or who Reggie Fils-Aimé was, or who Koji Kondo was, who Hiroshi Yamauchi was. I didn't even know who Shigeru Miyamoto was. I didn't know any of these people. At the time, I wasn't who I was today. I wouldn't pre-order games months before they released, and then go to GameStop the day they released to get them. I would just occasionally go to a store, and if they had a new game out, whether it was out for a month or a day, if it looked fun, I'd get it. I didn't know all these things about Nintendo. I didn't know the facts about Nintendo. I would just buy games, play them, have fun. But on that day, I decided, well, after he died, and I knew he died, I looked him up, I found out who he was, how much he meant for Nintendo, and I felt really bad. I felt even worse than when I just knew he was associated with Nintendo. And then I started looking up through like the past year or two, I started finding out everything I could about Nintendo. I knew who all these people were. I knew all the facts about Nintendo, including that they were originally a playing card company. I started learning all of this. I learned who Reggie was. I learned who Charles Martinet was. I learned who Shigeru Miyamoto was. So I learned all this. And I learned facts. I learned how important Satoru Iwata was. And that's when I started feeling even worse about him passing. And I felt bad that on the day he died, I really wasn't all that sure about who he was. And then eventually, one day, I got curious about it. I just somehow got him on my mind, and this was probably around a year after he passed. Because I started seeing tribute videos about, like, the 1 year thing of him passing. And this was still when I was transitioning into the die-hard Nintendo fan I am now. And this was still when I wasn't exactly sure about everything like I am now. And I looked up some tribute videos to him to just find out everything I could. And at the time, this is when I started knowing who, like, all these people were. I watched a bunch of previous E3 videos because they were enjoying. And, I saw this video. It was about Reggie's tribute to Satoru Iwata at the Game Awards. And I watched it, and to see that Reggie, the kick-ass man of Nintendo, who's not afraid to dole out roasts to other companies, on the verge of tears over this man. That's when I truly realized just how much he meant to not only me, but to Nintendo. And that's the first time I actually cried about his death, because then I actually realized just how much he meant. And then, from then to now, I've learned a lot of facts about him, and I learned just how much of a good person he was, how much he knew about what he worked on, how much he knew just about hardware, software, and how nice of a person he was to cut his own pay when the company was going through failures after, I believe, the Wii U. Very sorry about that, sorry. After the Wii U. And, to think that he cut his own pay just to make sure nobody would have to worry about losing a job. That's something I don't know many people would do. A lot of people I know wouldn't do that. And to think, like, all this, and to think the last thing, one of the last things he said to the public was that he was sorry for the Wii U's bad sales and for the disappointment at E3. We all blamed him for that. And at the time I didn't know this, but we all blamed him for the failures. And that's one of the last things he said back to us, was apologizing for it. Now just recently, I was playing through Mario Party 6 for the Mario Party 4 for the GameCube. And I beat the game, and I was just kind of watching the credits, enjoying the music, enjoying the photos, the flashbacks to the game, like I always do. And of course, always at the end, Satoru Iwata's name appears. Usually not on the older games, well, not on like SNES and NES games, I believe, but his name appeared, and as usual, I started tearing up over it. But it wasn't always that way. Back before he died, I was the kind of person who didn't care about credits. I'd beat a game, I'd go walk off, go get a snack or something, come back, see if the credits were done, and if they weren't, I'd go and find something else to do with my time. But since that day, every time, every single game I've beaten, I've watched the credits, and I've enjoyed the music. I look through all the names, I look through the pictures if they have them, and at the end of every single credits, I saw his name, and I would tear up, sometimes full-blown cries in Breath of the Wild's case. And I would just thank him for everything he did, for making my childhood, for making many people's childhoods, and for making Nintendo what it is today. And to think, even in Breath of the Wild, you still see his name. Even in, I believe ARMS. I believe you still see his name, even in ARMS. Not sure about that, but even in the most recent games, the last game for the Wii U, which I believe was Color Splash, still see his name. First game for the Switch, still see his name. Most recently released game for the Switch, you still see his name. Because just that he worked on all of this, and that he loved it. Like, a lot of people, you can work for a gaming company to make money, but you won't like it. In him, he didn't work for money, as we saw when he cut his pay in half. He worked because he liked it. He liked what he did. He liked putting smiles on all of our faces. He liked it. And that's what was important. That's all I have to say, really. I don't know, nothing really else to say about him. He was a great man, and he made my childhood and many more people's. He will be missed. Oh, one more thing. I am a music nerd when it comes to like gaming music, and I'll always listen to soundtracks of gaming music, and occasionally you'll get to a sad song, and I like scrolling through the comments while I'm listening too, and sometimes I'll scroll down and then I'll see a comment saying rest in peace Iwata or something about that, or maybe like may you go up the rainbow road, or just stuff like that. And even then, even if I accidentally scroll through it or something, if I see his name, I will still either tear up or just give my thanks to him. Now that's all. So thank you, Iwata. Thank you for making my and many other people's childhoods. You will be missed. I'm XP Gamer, and I'll see you guys next time. Before I go, I just thought it wouldn't be right if I didn't say some of this man's quotes. First off, we have this. I've never once been afraid that children have I've never once been embarrassed that children have supported Nintendo. That's because children judge based on instinct. And another one. Video games were just meant to be one thing. Fun. Fun for everyone. And of course, I couldn't forget this. On my business card, I am a corporate president. In my mind, I am a game developer. And in my heart, I am a gamer. So, thank you, Iwata-san. Thank you for the Kirby games you brought at HAL Laboratories. Thank you for all the Mario games that you managed to bring in these newer systems. Thank you for all the Zelda games. Thank you for all the Smashes. And of course, thank you for Earthbound. And most of all, thank you for the childhood. All your creations will surely live on. Thank you so much for everything.